This, as a whole, this is Higho Stable Garage. I'm simply just the host inside an environment. Higho Stable Garage is the spot I'm working. And you know what? A lot of you guys, over the course of however many videos we have on YouTube now, a lot of you guys want to know more about this barn. I refer to it as a barn. A lot of people think it's an old milking barn. A lot of that is true. Anyway, we're going to do a deep dive into the actual barn of Higho Stable Garage. And so, get ready for a little bit of a history lesson and we'll show you guys around. Welcome to Higho Stable Garage. You know, we might as well start off with the inside of, Higho Stable Garage and work our way out. You guys are much more familiar with the inside than the outside, so we'll get that guy out of the way. Let's talk about some... So keep in mind a little bit as we're going through. The barn's kind of in winter storage mode. There's things everywhere. During the summer, there's a lot less clutter in here, but during the winter, everything just kind of gets thrown in. Keep it out of the snow. So, we're going to have to step over some things, but I'll show you guys around. So, first things first, take a look at this. That is outdoor shingles, if you notice, on both sides. See, that's what I'm talking about right there. Goes all the way over to here, all the way over to there, and then the actual barn starts. Interesting, eh? Same as, this wall right here, if you notice, there's plywood. Right there and right there. Also a old little doggy door kind of inside right there. There's a lot going on with this entire main wall anyway. So, let's talk about it. This entire wall actually was a dividing wall between the main barn that you guys see and a 2 to 3, I think it was a 3-story hayloft that was right here. On the other side, the concrete slab? I'll cut to, there's videos of the concrete slab. Come on now. That concrete slab, I'll show you guys later. But anyway, that used to be a 3-story hayloft, and this was the main divider. This is actually the outside wall that when we got rid of that hayloft, we needed to cap this off with something. We used this piece. Fun fact, there's lag bolts. I think there's 12 or 15 at the top and the sides that actually hold that one wall section to the rest of the barn. It's actually just connected with lag bolts. Interesting tidbit of information. Now, I'm just a greasy mechanic that fiddles around with fabrication. When it comes to home building and barn building, if it works, it works. That's what we go with. So, that's hence the lag bolts. Anyway, let's keep moving on. So I'll address it once, and then we won't talk about it again. All this down the entire line is all press board. It's about, I think, 1/2-inch press board, and it's just layered all the way down the barn. It's basically all fallen off. It's all rotten in some spots. There's no insulation up in this barn. As you can see, there's the rafters, and no insulation. That's why, even today, I think it's only, -2. You can still see my breath. I'm inside the barn. The barn's not heated, fellas. It's never been heated. Might have been heated when there was horses here with a little wood furnace or something. But literally the entire time Higho Stable Garage has been going about, we've been dealing with the cold. -20, -30, it's what we deal with. So that's the barn. That's the only real insulation here. There's a little bit in the walls, but it's very sparse. It doesn't cover the entire thing. Anyway, I'll show you guys the walls real quick. This hole in the wall is actually a great example of how this barn's built. As you can see, we got steel, we got studs, and then we have wood. That's about it. In some key spots, there is insulation, but the general bit of the barn, there's none. Oh, and by the way, you can see one of those lag bolts right there that hold that wall up, as you can see. We'll go over a little bit more general construction, but then we'll move on to the rest of the more interesting stuff. So this is truss, but it's not engineered truss. That's what we got going on the trusses. It's just plywood, basically. And that brings us into the other point on why a whole bunch of guys wonder if this is an old milking barn. Posts all the way down, all the way down. There's a lot of posts in this barn, and there's a good reason why. Every second post was a wall, was basically a cubicle for an animal, horse, cow. I think in here, because there's a lot of asphalt in here and there was steel cladding up on the sides, walls, everything that I had to remove, and then asphalt ground. I believe that was for pigs. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not a farmer. Over the course of this barn, it's an older barn. Over the course of the barn, it's likely had literally every type of animal in here. We used to have a gigantic fat raccoon that lived up way at the other end in that barn, and I would see him climbing up in a window every night as I'm working out here, and I would hear him upstairs. Eventually, he just kind of disappeared. I think I saw him at the road. But either way, there's been every sort of animal in this barn. It's literally just a barn. It's just a barn. This entire bit here used to be railroad ties, creosote ties, and then they were all subdivided. This big gap used to not be here. There's a spot where a post used to be. I think there's another 2. We removed those just so we can get a car in. Circling back on the whole post idea, being automotive based, if we could remove these posts, it would drastically make things easier getting cars in and out of here. But we're not entirely sure if the trusses up top were designed around these steel posts or not. They might have just been made for the wood to slide in because that's how it was when we got the barn. But every second one is directly under a truss. Every second one from the truss is just on that wood beam, that wood board. And it's not a wood beam. I think it's actually just like a 2x6. It's not very big. The ones that are underneath the truss, we don't know if they're load bearing or not. And we're not engineers at the end of the day. Again, I'm just a fella that likes to weld and work on old stuff. That's basically it. There's a better look at what I'm talking about there. Basically, beam, beam, beam. Every second one has a truss, or it might even be less than that. I'm not quite sure. I'm not an engineer, fellas. This is how it is. We don't know if we can completely remove all these beams or not. So we never did. We're kind of working around them. But it used to be an old cow, horse barn type deal. Might have been an old milking barn at one point. Might have been a beef cow spot. It's hard to say. But again, I think every single animal known to man was in here. Crocodiles, lemurs, emus, who knows? But a lot of different types of animals were in here. Might not be just cattle at the end of the day. And this room right here is kind of one of the lost relics of how everything else was. When we first came in, we designed the shelves with the wood that is basically in the stalls. Those are directly off the walls. But this is one of the last stalls that we never got rid of because it was kind of a nice little room. Made a whole bunch of shelving, all that kind of stuff. But it has wire on the windows, wire there. I kind of think this was a horse stable, but it's really hard to say. Unless it's one of those things, unless you were here while it was being used, you really don't know at the end of the day. But it's working good for us, so let's keep moving back. Now, the barn is pretty big, and a lot of guys want to know how big it actually is. Well, I actually decided to take a tape measure out. I'm not the builder of the barn. I didn't inherit the barn, nothing like that. This barn was built for a purpose, and they built it to their specs, so it's a little bit oddball shaped, but I'll go over the specs with you. Center lane concrete is 9.5 wide by 100 feet long. That's a pretty dandy big space. But when it comes to the rest of the barn, if you're just talking general space, if you didn't have the cubicles or the steel or anything, it's a 30 by 100 with 9-foot ceilings. 30 feet by 100 feet with 9-foot ceilings. It's pretty big. 8-foot tall doors, so you can get in some pretty big stuff. And it works out perfect for us, We got enough room to fiddle and to store and a whole bunch of stuff, but you still got enough room to play around. I would really like the concrete to, continue and those posts to be gone. It would make life 100% easier, as you guys saw with the 5.4 trying to skate it past the old Chevrolet there. But you make do with what you got, and I'm by no means complaining. Because I'm just like every other fella. You're working in a driveway, shade tree mechanic. That's how you start. I've done a lot of working driveways, Ford Explorer, F-250, my blue truck. Most of the blue truck was built in a driveway. That's just kind of how things are. The barn really changed the game for us. It really helped us a lot.
We're very fortunate because without the barn, it would be very hard to do the YouTube channel and all that stuff, just work on our projects. It's been great to us. No complaints, really, at the end of the day. So in here, this used to be actually a chicken coop down the day, and it was all kind of boxed in, as you can see, kind of in the middle room. Well, we decided to help her out. So, you know, we made it kind of like a little office space at the end of the day. Heated room. It's the only heated room in the barn. Got a whole bunch of, you know, insulation and stuff in there. Really helps out.
Compared to, you know, where you can see your breath out here in the barn, that little heated room is, you know, nice to work on. Plus, you got the internet in there. It works out good. You can have a nice snack and watch some YouTube videos. What's the old saying? This is where the magic happens? This is pretty much where Higho Stable Garage videos take place. The rest of the barn's usually just storage. There's exceptions to that fact, especially during winter, because that's the only open bay. But over here is usually where the hardcore work takes place, as you guys know.
Like, so far, you know, the actual barn has been a host to a couple builds. This F-150 was completely built in Higho Stable Garage. It was actually the very first vehicle to be built here. We had a Dodge Colt. It's no longer here, but that was basically completely built here. That RX-7 was the second ever complete engine swap. To like this guy, he was a 460, all that stuff, but he was a complete build. That was just an engine swap. But that was done right over there in that corner.
I don't have to tell you about this whole thing. Just kind of all over the place. International, 1954. Sitting pretty. It's been completely built inside this barn, but you guys know that already.
Fun fact, right where that RX-7 is sitting, Old Blue, my blue pickup that I daily drive, my 6.9 diesel, it sat here for almost 2 years, basically completely gutted, just kind of hanging out.
This spot of the barn seems to be long-term projects that go there. The longer-term projects seem to slide all the way to the back, and then the front's open throughout the rest of the year. This RX-7 used to reside right over there. The F-150 used to be here. Dodge Colt, all that stuff.
Here on this side, we got basically active parts storage, steel storage, that kind of stuff. But fun fact, when the Dodge Colt was being built, he was being built initially right here. This was kind of the hangout spot. We were going to put a door right here or right there. I think it was right there, actually. Blow a door out right there, and then we'd be able to drive in. So I was making this spot kind of neat to hang out in. Blackboards, wall with license plate wall, all that stuff.
There's also, you know, where the window keeps blowing out. That's awesome. Sometimes gets snow right there. There's my plexiglass window. It is what it is.
But at the end of the day, it's a lot nicer to work on the concrete than it is on loose dirt. So that's why we migrated from here to basically over there. And then the last kind of neat feature about this entire barn here is this. This goes around the entire concrete slab all the way around. Actually, you know, it's not very glamorous, but if the horse or the cow or whatever decided to do their business on the concrete, they would basically slosh that into a conveyor system, and out the front it would go by that doggy door.
At least that's our general idea, but again, it's one of those things, unless you worked in a barn or researched it, you really don't know at the end of the day.
Plus, another neat thing, all four corners of this concrete slab have these gigantic steel plates put inside them with big slots that you can likely put chains in.
Hypothesis for those is if you were doing a clutch on a tractor or something, you would chain the front end of this fella, split your tractor, and wheel the back, and the chains would hold it. Is that true? Who really knows? But there's likely a lot of uses for those guys that some of you guys might know.
And now we take our way to the outside, And we got this big concrete patch there. Snow's a little bit on it there. But this guy right here is actually a 50 by 25 concrete patch. And again, this used to have that 2-story hay loft right on top. And it was quite big. It towered over the barn, but it was completely tearing down. But there was a whole bunch of rooms inside. It was a really neat spot.
You know, a literal ton of hay at the top. It was really dangerous to go inside.
And before it gets too dark, that's kind of what the barn looks like from the outside. And then that's kind of what we got going on the backside there. We got actually a couple plans for this backside this summer. Should work out pretty darn.
And you know what 2 vehicles are going to carry the brunt of the load? You know, the 2 workhorses of the channel.
We got Old Blue there. She's going to do a lot of the work. I can guarantee it. It's basically tore this whole spot down by itself. It's coming down.
Release the Kraken!
And then, you know, Grampy is going to help us with a lot of stuff on this. We actually got a lot of plans coming for this little fella, but it's just going to have to wait till, you know, most of the snow's
Because, you know, big, long, heavy truck in snow and mud usually doesn't mix pretty good.
But yeah, between Old Blue and Older Blue, we're going to get the job done.
So a couple fun facts about the barn. Basically, take 4 feet or 3 feet, I would say 3.5 roughly, on the concrete, all the way to the back, fill it with hay. There was so much hay in here, it was unreal. I think we did 120 loads with Old Blue, just going around. We actually made that berm by hand. That's all hay. It's quite a lot of hay. Went around from the back all the way around and dumped it over there. All with pitchforks and shovels. I think we were at it for 3 months straight. It was not a good time. But there used to be a direct line to the fire department in the local village that if the barn was going up in flames, you could call directly. It was a red phone. And the fire department would be coming down in their pumper trucks. That's awful neat, if you do ask. But yeah, I hope you guys liked, you know, taking a look at the old barn. I quite like it, and it's helped us quite a lot. Again, we wouldn't have the YouTube channel that we do today without this red filler. I can guarantee it. Anyway, the International, it's not going to build itself, so I got to get going. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys on the next one really, really soon. Hey, see ya.